Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do another new brewery from here in Sweden, and this is my very first taste of anything from these guys actually. So we're going to head up to Göteborg, or Gothenburg as you would say in Sweden, and this is a brewery who is very central actually in the city. They're actually right next to the port. So we're going to go to Vega Bryggeri for this one, and we're having a taste of their Hazy Amber, and this apparently is only the third beer that Vega have released in bottle, so it should be quite an interesting one for us to review. This one was released only on the 4th of January 2016. I bought it a few days later, and I'm filming this review for you on the 16th of January, but you'll see it sometime in later February or maybe even early March. I'm not sure about that yet, but this is a very new beer and probably the first time you're going to see it reviewed on YouTube, so yeah, very cool actually. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Vega Bryggeri. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers like I told you, and there's all the usual social media, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd, so please follow me on there. If you want to see more beer reviews, just subscribe to the channel, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Swedish pronunciations in this video. I'm still learning Swedish since I moved here to Lund, so please bear with me on that. I'm sure I will continue to improve over time. But anyway, to tell you about Vega Bryggeri. So these guys are based in Hisingen in Ringön, which is near It's in Gothenburg. It's actually just across the river from the main part of the city, and it's actually, this brewery is right in the port as far as I could figure from the map. But the company was founded back in 2012 by Claes Lundgren and also Thomas Kolberg. So they chose the location where they are because of how central it was in the city, and basically this allowed them access to the three largest Systembolaget stores in the city, of course. As I've told you many a time, the alcohol stores here in Sweden, Systembolaget, are all owned by the government, and there's regulations where microbreweries can only send beers to their three or four nearest stores without having to pay extra for the transport of them. That kind of screws the breweries in the very north of the country just because of the sheer distances, but for the breweries that are in the city like this one, I guess it can be fairly beneficial. But anyway, Claes and Thomas had been homebrewing for a long period of time along with another friend called Henke, but they decided to turn professional after seeing the rise of the craft beer scene in Sweden, just seeing how many breweries were popping up and actually doing pretty well. In the last kind of 5-10 years in Sweden, the craft beer scene has really exploded. A lot of breweries here are producing some really awesome stuff and doing really quite well. But apparently getting to the stage that they're at now has taken them about 4 years, but they're continuing to grow steadily, and they hope to expand further and introduce more beers to the range. As I mentioned to you, there's only 3 beers in the bottled range. This is the Vega Blonde Ale, the West Coast IPA, and now you have this guy, the Hazy Amber, but they do have several other beers on cask that are only available around Göteborg. So if you want to try more Vega Bryggeri beer, go and visit Göteborg. I need to go and do that still. I've not done that since I've moved here to Sweden. But anyway, that's your little bit about the brewery. If you do want to find out more, as I said, check out the brewery website and their Facebook in the description below. And of course, you can check out things like the Untappd and Rate Beer profiles as well. So do check that out if you are interested in learning more about the brewery. But we will get on to the tasting of this beer itself now. So this one, as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, is a 5.8% amber ale. It should be quite interesting. You can see on the side there, there's a nice ship on this one. It tells you a bit about it in Swedish too. It says this ship is now a permanent fixture in Gothenburg harbour, but this one used to go to South Africa and Melbourne and places like that. It's a very historic ship, so I'll need to go and have a look at that when I do get to visit Gothenburg. You can see though it is quite nicely presented, Vega Bryggeri. And you can see there's the kind of dock crane and things that's holding the barcode. That's actually quite a cool design on this one, I have to admit. 5.8% alcohol by volume, best before the 14th of December 2016. You can see the seagull on the bottle cap for this one too. So let's get this guy open and we'll see how we get on with this. Really interested to try this one. As I say, it's always really cool to try new beers from different places all over the place. So yeah, as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one, and you can really smell some of the sweet oranges and caramel coming out of this beer. A nice head coming out on this one. But yeah, this looks a very, very nice beer, I have to admit, and it smells really good as well. Even without paying too much attention to the aroma. So as you can see, this beer is actually poured quite a coppery amber colour. There is a little bit of sediment in this one. You can see if I put my fingers behind it, there is a degree of transparency, but it is quite opaque in colour, and there's a good few little sediment particles just floating around there, and there's a one finger creamy coloured head on this beer, but it looks very nice. A few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look very nice. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one. But it smells very much like an American amber ale. It's quite hoppy, this one, which is always a good sign. But if you sugar it up a little bit more, just like this, you start to get more of the kind of caramel malts coming out of it. It's quite biscuity, it's quite caramelly, and there is a good bit of a bready malt base in there too. So just sugar this beer up a little bit and you'll get an idea of all the different things that are coming out of this one. In terms of the hoppy character though, I want to say it's quite a juicy orangey citrus that's coming out of this one. There's maybe a bit of juicy tropical fruit in this too, you know, maybe like mangoes or maybe peaches or something like that. I'd be tempted more to say peaches because it does have that kind of distinctive, kind of dusty aroma that you get from peaches. Maybe there's a little bit of like gooseberry or something in there too. It could be the citra hop that they've put in this one, because you can get some of these more juicy tropical fruit flavours, but there's definitely orange in there, and of course that'll come from Amarillo. They didn't say what hops they put in this one, so I'm just guessing, of course. But I want to say with this beer, in terms of the hoppiness, there's a good juicy orange character. There's a little bit of a tropical fruit thing in there. Some of the juicy tropical fruits, I would say, like I think some peaches. There is a bit of a gooseberry aroma to it as well, which makes me think there's some citra hop in here. But yeah, it smells very, very nice. Just take a little bit of time and smell this beer before you get stuck into it. There's some interesting complexity to it, but other than that, you've got quite a smooth, grassy character to it. There's a little bit of a floral aromaticity, and when you sugar it up, you can get the malty character. So there's some nice caramel malt, some biscuity elements to it as well, and a nice bready character. So without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the Hazy Amber from Vega Bryggeri, one of the new breweries in Gothenburg in Sweden. Skål! Now that's quite an interesting one. You've got quite a good balance here. There's elements of an English amber ale, but there's also elements of the American one, but it definitely does lean more towards the American amber ale, just on first taste. As I always say with these beers, sugar them around your palate and just let your mouth get a big mouthfeel for this one, because that allows you to dissect the beer into the different flavours. So just do that when you try this beer. It's always a good technique. Wine tasters and sommeliers and people like that recommend that you do it, and it does work for beer as well in my experience. But yeah, so underneath this one there's a nice light bready malt base, as I was telling you. That kind of blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that you get some nice biscuity grainy character, and there's some richer caramel on top of that. You can really detect all of these flavours building on top of each other. Yeah, the malt base in this one is quite nice, and it's just balanced quite well with these nice hoppy characteristics in this beer. There's maybe a little touch of earthy character in the very back corner of the palate, and as you come further forward it starts to become more floral and aromatic. I was expecting this one to be quite smooth and grassy, but it does lean more towards the floral aromatic side of things. There is maybe a little bit of pine resin in there as well that's just kind of underpinning the beer, but it could well be that it's more of a spicy floral aromaticity. But regardless, around the front kind of part of the tongue there is a nice kind of floral aromatic, almost piney, hoppy dryness to this beer. It's very nicely done. But yeah, behind the front curve of the tongue, that's of course where you'll start to pick out these fruity flavours. It doesn't actually taste, the fruity character in this beer doesn't taste like it smells. I'm not getting much of the orangey character that I was expecting. I was expecting a nice big juicy orange feel to this beer. See, there is some citrus in there, but it comes across as quite dark. There probably is a little bit of an orangey citrus there. and some of the more kind of sour tropical fruits mixing in, but the hoppy part of this beer is really dominated by the floral aromaticity in this beer. Yeah, the fruity character in there, there is a bit of orange citrus in there, some of the lighter juiciness, but overall it's actually quite a dark citrusy character that's coming out of this one. There is a little bit of tropical fruit ester in there, but it's quite minimal, I would say. This beer is definitely more citric for me than it is tropical, which is quite unusual when you consider the aroma that you get out of this one. It does have quite a juicy tropical fruit aroma with some like gooseberries and things in there as well. So it's quite interesting in that regard that it does taste a little bit different to how it smells actually. But it's quite a nice hoppy beer, this one. Definitely a nice light and quite sessionable beer. For 5.8% you do get a tiny little bit of alcohol warmth out of it, which is always a good thing. But yeah, overall it's quite nice. As I said, a nice bready malt base in there. A bit of cereally character, but a kind of almost digestive biscuit sort of sweetness in there from the cereal. Some richer caramel on top, but mainly it leans towards the kind of grainy cereal sort of thing in the malt base. As I said, a bit of earthy character in the back corners of the palate. Come further forward, it becomes a lot more floral and aromatic, maybe even some pine resin in there too. There's a little bit of smooth grassiness around the front curve too, and then you go to that little oily bubble behind the front of the tongue, and there's quite a dark citrusy character in there, maybe some kind of juicy orange in there, but overall it's more of a dark citrusy beer. There is a little bit of tropical fruit, maybe just a little bit of grapefruit or passion fruit or something. It's definitely the more pungent tropical fruit flavours rather than the likes of mangoes and peaches, which are the more juicy tropical fruit flavours. But overall, it's actually quite a nice and quite sessionable beer. I have to admit, I quite enjoy this one. This is a good sort of session amber ale, if you like. And I would say that what it does well is that it kind of combines the English style of things, which is the more grainy malt base, with a little bit of the cereal character in there, and it takes you across and gives you some of the American hops, if you like. So if you enjoy both the English amber and the American style amber, then this one finds a very good middle ground, I would say. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say definitely mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth, but that said, it does have a little bit of a prickle, and that helps bring out some of the floral, aromatic and kind of piney character to the beer. It's slightly oily, but it's got a nice malty sweetness to it. As I said, the bready character is very smooth, and then on top of that you've got the cereally sweetness, almost like that biscuity kind of digestive biscuit sweetness there, but there's a good bit of dry and bitter character from the hops in there, quite floral and quite aromatic. And as you go into the aftertaste, it's the cereal that sits there and gives you a bit of dryness, and then you've got the hoppy, the sort of floral, aromatic and kind of piney characters are just lingering there as well. So overall it is actually quite a dry and bitter hoppy beer, but there is elements of that kind of more malty English amber ale in there. But overall it's a really nice beer, and on the basis of this one I would be keen to try their blonde ale and their West Coast IPA that they do as well. I need to see if I can get a hold of those, but I'm not sure about getting them through the System Biologic system, so we'll see how we get on with that. But overall this was a really quite nice beer. If you enjoy your amber ales, both the English and the American, you'll find this one to be a very good middle ground, so I would recommend it to those of you who enjoy that style of beer. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been really cool to do a review from another Swedish brewery. I think I must have done about 50 different Swedish breweries now since I've moved here, but go and check out Vega Bryggeri from Gothenburg. There's a good craft beer scene in Gothenburg these days. But as always, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below if you do happen to have tried it. Let me know your thoughts on the other beers from Vega as well. It'd be interesting to know that too. But I thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next one, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out my social media things, but most importantly, go and check out Vega Bryggeri and the craft beer scene in Göteborg, or Gothenburg as we would say in English. Slange just now, and I'll catch you soon with more beer reviews. Cheers.